What if the problem isn't that people don't want to work? What if the problem is that people don't want to spend most of their lives doing things they don't care about? For most of my life, I thought work was just one of those things you endured. And if you questioned it, people looked at you like you had 4 heads. That's just life, they'd say. But lately I've started wondering if that's actually true. Because something interesting is happening. People everywhere seem to be asking the same question. Is this really the best we can do? I mean, think about it. Human beings have more technology, automation, and communication tools than any other point in history. We can instantly communicate with people on the other side of the planet. Artificial intelligence can perform tasks that once required entire departments of companies. A single person can reach millions of people with a laptop and an internet connection now. Yet, somehow we're still organizing work like it was 1955. Show up at a specific place, at a specific time, sit there for 8 hours, then you can go home. Whether there's actually 8 hours of meaningful work to do or not. It's a system that made sense when factories dominated the economy. Factories needed workers physically present. Machines couldn't operate remotely back then. Assembly lines required synchronized schedules. But we're not all building automobiles anymore, are we? A huge percentage of modern work is knowledge work now. Ideas, communication, problem solving, creativity. And yet we've carried over the old factory mindset into the new digital age. What if we stopped doing that? What if we moved towards something completely different? An interest-based work model. Now, before anyone starts imagining a society where everyone sits around eating snacks and watching cat videos, that's not what I'm talking about. People naturally want purpose. Most people enjoy being productive. What they don't enjoy is being trapped. They don't enjoy spending decades doing things that drain their energy simply because the system demands it. Imagine a world where work becomes more aligned with genuine interest. A world where people contribute because they care about the work, not just because they're afraid of missing a paycheck. Would that be perfect? Of course not. Every system has problems. But let's think about what it might look like. Imagine an engineer who spends 3 days a week solving technical problems because that's what they love. The rest of the week, they're building furniture, creating YouTube videos, restoring classic cars, or teaching online. Imagine a teacher who creates educational content for thousands of students instead of being locked into a single classroom schedule. Imagine an accountant who only works during peak demand periods and spends the rest of the year pursuing other projects. Imagine people becoming portfolios instead of job titles. Not, I'm an employee, but I do several things that interest me and create value. That feels a lot closer to how human beings naturally operate. We're curious creatures. Most people don't have one interest. They have dozens. The traditional work model compresses all of that into one single identity. You're a programmer. You're a manager. You're an analyst. You're a technician. And that's who you are for the next 40 years. The interest-based model allows people to become more fully themselves. Now, this is pretty cool. A lot of people assume employers would hate this idea, but I'm not convinced. Because look at what's happening right now. Employee engagement numbers are terrible. Burnout is everywhere. People are mentally checking out before they even finish their first morning coffee. Companies spend enormous amounts of money replacing workers who leave. Imagine instead hiring people who actually want to be there. Imagine employees choosing projects because they're genuinely interested in it. Imagine productivity driven by enthusiasm instead of supervision. The old model often assumes workers must be managed. The new model assumes workers can be trusted. And when people are trusted, something remarkable happens. Many of them rise to the occasion. Not all, but enough to matter. The companies that figure this out first may end up attracting the best talent. Not because they pay the most, but because they offer freedom. And freedom is becoming more valuable than many employers realize. Now, let's talk about the obvious question. How do we actually get there? Because nobody wakes up tomorrow and announces, the old system has been canceled. Change happens gradually. It starts with individuals like you and me. And if I'm seeing one pattern clearly, it's that we're already moving in this direction. Look at YouTube. Look at newsletters. Look at digital products. Look at online communities. Look at creators building audiences around interests that would have been impossible careers 20 years ago. People are increasingly monetizing knowledge, hobbies, skills, experience, and their passions. Now let's be realistic. Most people are not becoming overnight millionaires. The internet has sold enough of that fantasy already, I'm thinking. Building alternative income streams takes time, often years. Many creators work incredibly hard before seeing any kind of meaningful results. But that's not the point. The point is options. The point is reducing dependency on a single employer. The point is creating choices. For generations, most people had one source of income. Today, many people have 2, 3, 4, or more. That may not seem revolutionary, but it absolutely is. Because every additional source of income gives you more autonomy. And autonomy changes everything. Your entire survival depends on one paycheck. Your options are limited. When you have alternatives, your relationship with work changes. You negotiate differently. You think differently. You make decisions differently. You become less afraid. And fear has been one of the primary engines driving the traditional work model for a very long time. So what can individuals do right now? Start small. Develop skills you're genuinely interested in. Share knowledge, create things. Build communities and experiment. Stop thinking exclusively in terms of career and start thinking in terms of value creation. What can you do that helps other people? What problems can you solve? What knowledge can you share? What experiences can you package? Those questions are becoming more important than any resume that's on the table right now. And maybe that's the biggest shift of all. The future might not be about finding a job. It might be about building a life made up of multiple interests, multiple skills, multiple income streams, and multiple opportunities. Now, will we ever completely eliminate traditional employment? Probably not. There will always be jobs. There will always be organizations. There will always be roles that require structure and consistency. But I don't think that's the choice. The choice isn't between employment and no employment. The choice is between rigid employment and flexible contribution, between control and autonomy, between obligation and interest. And I think we're witnessing the early stages of that transition right now. You can feel it. People aren't just complaining about work anymore. They're questioning assumptions. They're asking whether the rules still make sense. They're exploring alternatives. They're experimenting. They're building side projects. They're creating content. They're learning new skills. They're searching for something beyond the traditional script. Maybe that's why so many people feel restless right now. Not because they're lazy, and not because they're entitled, but because they've seen what's possible. And once you see that there might be another way to live, it's difficult to pretend you haven't seen it. The old model promises security. The new model promises possibility. Now, neither is perfect. But if I had to bet on the future, I bet on the world where people have more freedom to align work with interest, purpose, and personal choice. A world where earning a living doesn't require sacrificing a life. And maybe that's the real goal. Not retirement, not escaping work entirely, but building a life where work becomes something you choose rather than something you endure. Because if we can pull that off, even partially, we may look back at the traditional 9-to-5 model the same way we look back at many old systems. Useful for its time, but no longer the best option available. And honestly, after 60 years of watching how things work, that future doesn't seem nearly as unrealistic as it once did. As always, this has been Over 40 with Duff. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, follow, and share. Better yet, subscribe. It really helps out the channel. So until next time, keep asking yourself, if not now, when?